Harley Quinn.
Look, Freeze, Ivy's a genius biochemist. If she can't find a cure, there isn't one.
There is only one thing we can do while we wait. Lunch!
Welcome back to DC Daily. I'm Amy Allen, and today I am joined by my lovely co-hosts, Whitney Moore and Sam Humphries.
Hello, friends.
Oh, yeah, what's up? Good to see y'all.
It is Joker Week on DC Universe, and the Clown Prince of Crime is turning 80. Now, I figured we could all use a laugh, right? So I'm having us read Batman, the Man Who Laughs. Hilarious!
It's dark and horrible and scary.
Oh, it's a Joker story. It's terrifying. I'm sorry.
It's pretty spooky.
But it's real good. So for the record, this is not the Batman Who Laughs. This is the 2005 story by Ed Brubaker and Doug Mahnke, which is one of the great standalone stories. It takes place outside of what was continuity at the time, and it tells how Batman first met the Joker. If you haven't read it yet, it is on DC Universe, so go check it out and then come back here because we're about to get into it. All right, what did we think of Batman, the Man Who Laughed?
This is such a cool book. I loved reading this book again. I really love where this book fits in Batman history because it comes right after Batman Year One, right? Like Batman Year One ends and we pick up in this book and this is where Gotham is, this is where Batman is, and Joker is new on the scene. But it is not a sequel per se, because it's not trying to outdo Year One, it's trying to be its own book. So it's like the next chapter in Batman lore without having to live up to those like lofty expectations of Year One, which is a masterpiece in everybody's mind.
This was my first time reading this comic, and I loved it. Oh my god. I mean, I think it's safe to say we all are hardcore Brubaker stans.
Yes.
And I really love stories where Batman is just kind of starting to figure out his moral code and figure out what he's doing. Because in the movies, you know, we see him and we're all so familiar and we love him so much. And I just love thinking about him being like, oh, it's first couple nights on the job, like, what's this gonna be like? And then he meets the Joker. What the hell?
You know, 2005 year was a good year for Batman beginning to do things, now that I think about it.
I love when we can see characters like Batman question himself or not be sure what to do next, because he's such an iconic character, and if we see him do it, it like unconsciously gives us permission to be okay with questioning ourselves or be okay with not being sure about what we're going to do next in our lives. Very timely book in that way.
And I love the way that it tells a classic Batman story while playing most of the things pretty straight. Like, Batman traditionally doesn't kill, and this story, he's kind of figuring it out. He's not sure where that's gonna land, but it ends with him being like, I can't do it. I'll have to settle for this. It uses all of these elements. Like, I love to see them broken. I love to see those rules broken, but I'm also really impressed when you can do a story that stays technically within all those boxes, but feels super new and exciting, and it's just really good, y'all.
Yes, agreed.
There was a moment in there where a mental hospital inmate who was let loose by the Joker, and he's got that woman like this, and he's like, the dolly's too loud, which of course is like incredibly spooky, but I was like, oh, Batman could just pick up the gun and shoot him, but he didn't do it because he is Batman. This is still a full-on Batman story.
That part freaked me out so much.
Yeah,
Thank you for reminding me of that.
Creepy. You're welcome. Sleep tight.
Such nightmare. Let's talk about this version of the Joker. Obviously, there's a lot of referencing and meta-textual stuff kind of going on in this book, starting with the title, Batman, the Man Who Laughs. Obviously, there's a connection there because Joker tells jokes and you laugh at jokes, but there's also a really specific reference that's being made there because the 1928 movie, The Man Who Laughs, starring Conrad Veidt, was the visual basis for the classic image of the Joker, according to all of the various folks who contributed to him.
Way back in the day.
Amy, you're so smart.
Well, I really love this fact because it's like a weird bonus fact that movie is an adaptation of a Victor Hugo novel. And Victor Hugo, of course, also wrote Les Mis with some of the classic like criminal and detective characters, Javert and Jean Valjean, who are both based on the same real guy, Eugene Vidocq, who sort of inspired everything we know of detective fiction. So there's this DNA like, thanks, Victor Hugo, you kind of helped plant all these seeds that grew into
all coming
Batman
together.
and
Wow.
the Joker.
And now I want a Batman musical.
Yeah. Amy, that was a real long way around to get us into wanting to see a musical, but you did it.
Not on purpose, but I'll take the credit. So speaking of elaborate plans, what do you think of these versions?
I love this Joker, and I have to pose a question to you guys because this is obviously like such a horror-oriented Joker. I love any Joker that's like the criminal mastermind. What Joker do you guys hear when you read comics? Is it Mark Hamill?
You know, I do hear Mark Hamill often, but I don't hear Mark Hamill always, and I did not hear him this time.
I could not get Mark Hamill out of my head, and it was making my experience reading this comic less scary and more funny. And I was like, Mark Hamill, you're ruining my life. I want to be scared, but I was just so tickled by hearing
The warm glow
say
that you
those
get from
lines.
hearing that performance.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I didn't hear it, because this is such a horror take on the Joker. It's not a grim take in the way that we use grim to talk about comics, but it is very grounded. It's very street level. He's not like this sort of like giggly skinny dude who always seems to get away. Like, you really see in this book why he is such a danger, and the number one reason why is because he is so smart, and the number two reason is because he's so demented. He doesn't just look like this like leaf that's gonna blow up and dry away. When he fights Batman hand to hand, you really believe that fight.
But he still has that exaggerated physiology, that sort of very stylized look to him. He's still dressing in the purple suit. I love that it's not too like realistic down.
Yeah. Well, I love the part where he goes to the factory and he interviews the guy who has the specks of white on his face, and he's like, oh, I didn't get it so bad. There was another guy who got his whole arm splashed and the hair on his arms turned green. I love that so much.
Yeah, I love when Batman in disguise as the reporter, when Batman was like, what happened to your face? And the guy's like, oh, this? Like, dude, you were in a city being terrorized nightly by an unearthly pale dude, and you have pale spots in your face. Like, come on, like, somebody besides Batman has got to make these connections. He can't do it by himself. I mean, he can and he did, but let's get some help here.
It's also a really beautiful little scene because you get this entire world of that factory and its internal conflicts, and it's done in like 4 panels of dialogue.
I also really love that scene because I love when Batman wears a disguise. I just love it. I can't get enough of it. The fake mustache and the wigs and the sunglasses. One of my favorite Batman personas is definitely Matches Malone. He is a classic Batman disguise when he wants to go into the underworld, and he's Matches Malone, so he like chews on a match, because that's what criminals do, of course, right? If I was a criminal, I'd be like, oh, this guy's legit. I'm gonna tell him all my secrets. But this is one of the many great examples of Batman being a detective in this book.
I like my Batman like I like my eggs. Hard boiled.
Oh, yeah.
Delicious. I love this Batman. And you don't like eggs at all, Sam.
I don't like eggs at all, but I love a good hard-boiled tale, and so does Ed Brubaker. And you can see it here.
Yes, he does.
This is not a strict crime story compared to like his like straightforward crime stories with no superheroes, but you can see him apply that like passion and knowledge for hard-boiled stories, not eggs, and take that and apply it to Batman and Joker.
He knows all that history, he knows all those tropes. Obviously, the other thing that's being referenced in this story that I went back and reread because I hadn't looked at in a while was literally Batman #1 from 1940, which was the first Joker story, and the first 2 victims in that story are the same 2 guys who get targeted in a very similar manner, except it's radio because TV has not been invented yet. And so that's really, really fun to go back and forth and see the way they took even plot elements from that and inspiration from year 1 and rolled it forward. And we've talked about Brubaker's incredible work. If there's any kind of crime involved, you want Brubaker on it. But we haven't talked about this art, y'all.
No.
Doug Mankey, I think maybe my favorite Doug Mankey ever.
It's so good. Again, first time watching is, let's look, 1 second page. Second page
Yes.
is this horrifying corpses everywhere in a warehouse. I'm leaving that up just because it's so scary. It's literally, I was like, oh, this is going to be a good Joker book. Ah!
You're leaving that up because you don't have to look at it, but we do, so now we're off our game.
Thanks, Whitney.
You know, it's funny because Doug Mahnke, he really made his first splash in comedy or like funny comics, like edgy comics, but they're funny. And people forget that about him, but they also forget that he is an incredible horror artist. And we really see that come into play here. And I love the way that he and Brubaker work together. Reading it this time, I was so stunned by the pacing. I don't know if it came from Ed or from Doug or from both of them together, but just the way that some pages had like 6 to 7 panels on it and some pages had 3 panels on it. It was so well handled, the way they handled the really big important reveals, the really big emotional moments, the huge shocking twists. I want to see them work together again. I need them back together again. Yeah.
The emotion, the action, the characters, all of it works really well. David Barron on colors and Rob Lee on letters, both doing incredible work here for the twin narratives. Favorite scene? Putting you on the spot.
Ooh, I love when they bust out Bat Signal. I was like, oh, it's on, especially knowing that it's an early Batman, and I was like, man, I felt nostalgic, which is crazy because
it's an imaginary time and we weren't there, but we were definitely there.
Yeah, but I was like, oh, remember when?
Oh yeah, we were all there together, right? No, those are the classic moments that you want to see when you're seeing a year 1 or year 1.5 or year 2 stories, wherever this falls. I love to see the night vision goggles fight, where you really see how Batman and Joker right from the start are playing off each other. It's like a chess match. It's Joker being like, here's how I'm going to set them up and here's how I'm going to make them fail. And Batman's like, oh, he did this? Well, that means he has night vision goggles, so I'm going to do this. And Joker's like, well, I'm going to do that, but it's too late for Batman, and on and on and on. Right away, these two are so well matched. I mean, it's a terrible match for Gotham, but it's a great match if you're reading this comic and enjoying yourself.
It's a meet cute from a scary perspective.
Yeah. Meet MEAT.
Absolutely is. Ooh. Took a guffaw to a gross out.
There's so much great stuff in this. I love the way they write Alfred. He has just a couple of big moments, but they're so perfect. The one where he's like, are we sure we've recovered our faculties, sir? But the final confrontation between Batman and the Joker, I love. It's just pitch perfect. It's those two in their most iconic iterations. It's the Doug Mahnke's doing a wonderful kind of gothic approach to the illustration there. The action is great. The character beats are great. It's just so much fun to watch. And this makes for one of my favorite Joker stories because there's so many different ways to tell stories about the Joker, and there's so many different approaches you can take. I love ones like this where you see him come into being, but you'll never really know who he is or where he came from. It's one approach, and it's one of my faves. What do you all like in a Joker origin or a Joker story?
Well, people get very huffy and puffy about explaining the Joker origin, right? Like, people are like, we should never know. It should always be a mystery. This doesn't explain. It explores the Joker's origin. I think there's 2 key points here. One is that we never see any of this from the Joker's point of view. So you don't get that, like, I was 28 and I was on hard times and this is why I am the way that I am. Screw the world. You know what I mean? Like, you don't reveal that, so you don't reveal that part of the mystery. The second thing about this is that the Joker is really revealed in this story as sort of like Gotham going to a next level. I don't know if I'd call it an evolution or a devolution because there's Joker and Batman at the same time, but it's really showing the Joker as a reflection of Gotham going to new places.
I mean, I love exploring psychoses. Just look at my dating history.
A rim shot.
That's my favorite thing about Joker stories is when they get into not necessarily the backstory, but like how his mind works. And I think that, to your point, Sam, talking about how Batman is such a great match for him, when we go into and we see the steps that the Joker takes and we see the steps that Batman takes, it makes it for such a satisfying Joker story.
Yeah, and you see that moment where Batman was like, I'm not prepared for this kind of guy. I'm prepared for muggers. In Batman taking him out, you literally watch and experience Batman go to the next level, and you walk next to him as he does it.
Watching him change, that gives the story its point, which is so cool. All right, final very serious question. if the Joker was gonna strap you into a death trap at an amusement park, which ride would you want it to be?
I think that my favorite ride of all time is the Mummy ride at Universal Studios, just because I love a good blacklight poster, and there's blacklight posters of mummies everywhere. Plus, you go backwards on it, and so that would be fun. That'd be a fun
So
death.
you're going for fun factor, Sam?
I would also go for the fun factor because I would pick a roller coaster. I'd probably pick like the scariest, craziest roller coaster on earth, like the ones that you see the videos of online. Everybody's like, no way, I'll never do that. Oh, that's special effects. It's Photoshop. Like, give me the hardcore stuff. Just because if the Joker's going to kill me, I don't want to be scared of that. I want to be scared about the fun thrill ride, not the murder.
Do you want to already be so frightened that the Joker has no power over you?
I'm like, yeah, like whatever, dude. Kill me. It's fine. I'm more focused on this. Yeah.
I was just gonna go for that, like the one that you spin around inside and you like go up on the walls and you can turn in different directions. And I have no basis for that. I just like those things.
It's just a good ride. You know what that is? It's like a human-sized cotton candy machine.
There we go.
So what if you did that and cotton candy was constantly flying in your mouth?
To a point, that
That's
would
a
be
great
very
way to go.
fun.
There you okay. All right, I'm liking this. I might change my answer to Amy's answer.
All right. Thank you guys so much for reading this with me and talking about it. That is
Of
it
course, y'all.
for today's show. Happy 80th anniversary to the Joker, you creepy, creepy, horrible man. Until then, we will see you next time. Bye.
Goodbye, y'all.